Welcome to Rock the Crown. Introducing our host, Nafisah, queen about her business in 60. Host Naimah, queen get it done and fitness guru. Host Nefertari, queen residential redeveloper and creative director. Host Daaiyah, boss queen biz and youth motivator. All right, Crown Nation, let's get it. Season 2, Rock the Crown.
Hey, Crown Nation. Welcome to Rock the Crown. I'm your host, Daaiyah, and I'm here with my co-host,
Nafisah,
Naimah,
and Nefertari. Welcome, Crown Nation.
Yes, so Crown Nation, we are back with another episode, and today's episode is our boss building episode, where myself and Nafisah will be talking about money matters. And today's topic is money philosophy. So today we'd like to kind of go over a couple of different models of money philosophy, which a lot of people use. You know, there are certain people who use different models and also use different models for different times in their lives. So we're going to focus on 4 really popular models that people ascribe to when they're seeking to earn more money, to save more money, to get out of debt, and also just to save and preserve their money for their families and leave a legacy. So we're going to go ahead and start off. We're going to kick it right off in our boss building session. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my co-host Nafisah, who's going to go ahead and give us an overview of one of the first models.
yes, thank you so much, Daaiyah. I just love this segment because a lot of times we can get so lost in all the noise about money, and you got to reel it in and bring it back to the basics. So I always like to start with the basics of what are the different philosophies of money, so that when you're out trying to figure out, should I invest in this particular vehicle or what should I do with my money, you want to make sure that number one, you have identified your philosophy of money that resonates with you, and two, the different avenues or activities, money earning activities that you choose is going to feed into and follow that particular philosophy, because you don't want to choose a certain vehicle and it contradicts your particular philosophy of how you want to go about using, earning, and investing money. So I thought that was we thought that was important for us to just give this as a foundational concept. So the first one that I'm going to talk about, which I know a lot of people have heard of before, Crown Nation, is the millionaire next door. A lot of us have heard this term. Many of us have read this book. This book has been out for several years now, might be even over 10 years now, and they have also had updated editions of this particular book, Millionaire Next Door. And it's basically evolved into not just a book, but a philosophy in terms of living and moving through the world from a financial perspective. And basically, the Millionaire Next Door philosophy is basically simple living, right? Simple living. And it's the idea that you're saving, you're living simply, you're not investing in or not spending your money on a lot of luxurious items. For example, it's the person who lives in a regular middle class or lower class neighborhood whose house is generally paid off. They don't have a McMansion with a swimming pool and all these luxury amenities in terms of a home office. They're just living simply. They drive an older car that's paid off. They're not getting traded in their car every 2 years for the latest Mercedes or the latest Porsche. They're not going to Starbucks every single day. Basically, they're just simple living, and they're using their money on a basic survival mode. And because they're living at this basic level, they're still earning money, but they're not every time they get a raise raising their standard of living, which most people do. Most people, every time they get a raise or they get an infusion of money, they raise their standard of living. Those who follow the philosophy of the millionaire next door, they don't do that. They maintain the same, for the most part, level standard of living while their bank account keeps growing. All right. And they don't go to Starbucks every day. I love Starbucks. I'm sorry. I just do, but I don't go every day, but they don't go to Starbucks. So that's basically the millionaire next door philosophy. And some people, that works for some people all through their life. Some people use that philosophy only on certain periods of their life, depending on what season of their life that they're in. And some choose not to use it at all. It's pros and cons to each one of these philosophies that we're discussing today. As we move into our second money philosophy, Daaiyah, do you want to tell us about that?
Why, sure. And I will add on also that with the millionaire next door philosophy, it's really difficult for younger people to kind of get into this, this model, because it does require for them to really scale back, and a lot of our young people, not young people, but even people our age, we like to have, like you mentioned, our Starbucks, we like to buy our designer bags, designer shoes. So if you are that person who does enjoy those luxuries, nothing wrong with that. That model may not be good for you. Your model may be more tailored to this savers model, and one of the financial advisors who really talks about this one will be Susie Orman. So Susie Orman really, really pushes saving, right? Saving, paying off credit cards. And she talks about, how when when you have credit card debt, you have to pay that off first before you can start to save. You don't want to have, $10,000 in a savings account that's just sitting there, and then you also have credit card debt, where you're earning interest, where you're having to pay interest, right? So she talks about, a model where you are, using your money to pay off your credit card, and then you're also at the same time you're saving. So this is going to allow you to be able to, to see, more money in your savings account for emergencies. There's nothing worse than having, an emergency happen and you don't have the money for it. Something like, a tire blowout for some people is devastating, because even $200 is something that they do not have. So a $200 repair, $1,000 car repair, it can just really, really put a huge dent in your, in your financial position if you don't have that money saved. Whereas if you do have those funds saved, it's more of an inconvenience. If you have that money saved and you've got your emergency funds, and when this happens, it's just like, oh, I hate to have to pull from my savings, but I'm glad I have that savings, so that if something like this happens, I'm able to kind of, just kind of go with it. I'm paying it, and then guess what? I'm going to try to replace it. So that's, Susie's model. And of course, it's a lot more extensive. Susie talks about a lot of different things, also retirement, planning for your retirement. And also planning for your children's college fund. So she is really, really more so about having that financial cushion, having those things in place that make your life easier, having those things in place that when your child decides that they do want to go to one of the more expensive schools, you have that money to back up this hard work that they put in. It's nothing worse than, your child applying for one of the top colleges, and then they're looking at you to see, well, mom or dad, I've worked hard. You told me to work hard and get all A's, and I did that. I got into this school, and they're looking to you. Where's that savings for the school? So that's something we really, really, really have to really start thinking about. So if you're the type of person who likes to have, that money set aside for incidentals, then you may want to read more on what Susie talks about. You may want to educate yourself on this model, because this may be a model that's better for you, to be able to kind of figure out how to position your family, in the best way that you can. So that's that model. Nafisah, the third model is one that I say that I probably really am at right now, the one that you're going to talk about, the growth model. I recall going to a financial advisor to start, to get some information on it. And he mentioned this model. So I want you to go ahead and talk a little bit about that model.
Yes, the growth model. The growth model says I need to focus on all activities to help me grow my money, right? So every activity that I use, every vehicle that I use, every job or business that I use is geared towards me growing my money, growing my money. That's the philosophy. And to distinguish it from the millionaire next door, the millionaire next door may have a job, right? And they usually their ideal is, I'm going to have a job and I'm going to have a business and I'm going to build it to a certain level, and I'm going to just keep saving my money, and I'm not going to increase my standard of living. Versus the growth person's philosophy, money philosophy is, if I want to buy me a $5,000 watch, I need to grow my income to be able to have it to buy that $5,000 watch. If I want to live in a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 house, I'm not going to save my way to there. I'm going to grow my income so that I'm able to afford that particular item or whatever. So it's a growth mindset versus a saver's mindset. And this is the model that allows you to usually take more risk, right? Because you're focusing on how to use your money that you're making to make more money, right? And so you can take calculated risk. We're not saying that you're reckless, but that's really the growth model. And this is my favorite model, and has always been my predominant model, because I like to go on trips. I like nice things. So I need to be able to make more money so that I can afford that without jeopardizing the basic standard of living for my family, right? So that's kind of the growth mindset. And we're probably going to talk about a little bit more examples a little later, but we want to at least get these different money philosophies out there so that you can begin to think and have these in mind when you see those different advertisements come across about investing in this or saving your money this. Okay, well, I'm in a growth mindset. That particular activity is not going to fit into what I'm trying to do, right? So making sure you're matching whatever your mindset or philosophy is with your activities that you're doing. And our fourth money philosophy that we want to talk about today is also going to be no debt. The no debt philosophy, which is a huge philosophy out there. And also this is a idea and a concept too that's very popular among Muslims, right? Because we as Muslims, we don't necessarily believe in having a lot of debt on purchasing a lot of ticket items with that we're going to incur a lot of debt and pay a lot of interest in that realm. So the no debt model, most of us who made this model popular was Dave Ramsey. And basically it says that you live basically on a cash basis. So everything that you have because you pay cash for it. And if you don't have it, if you want to get it, then you need to earn enough money to have cash for it. And if you don't have the cash, then you're not going to be able to purchase it because you just don't believe in carrying any debt in terms of credit card debt, in terms of mortgage debt. even if you incur a mortgage, for example, you might originally sign up with a 15-year mortgage, but if you are one who believes in no debt, your goal is going to be to get rid of that mortgage as soon as possible. So you're going to immediately try to put into place a 3 to 5 year plan to get rid of that mortgage if no debt is your philosophy in terms of what you use to move through. So that's generally what I say in terms of the no debt. You're gonna pay cash for your car, right? You're not gonna go out here and get a car loan and auto loan or anything like that. You're gonna you're gonna pay for cash. Don't pay cash for your car. You're gonna pay cash for all your trips. You're not gonna put that trip to Hawaii on your credit card. Mm-hmm. You're gonna save so that you can have the cash to pay for those particular things. So that is basically the no debt Dave Ramsey model. And I know, Daaiyah, you want to make any more comment? I went into the no debt one. I didn't know if you had an example regarding the no debt philosophy of Dave Ramsey.
Oh, okay. Yeah. When I was interviewing financial advisors to determine which one would be good for me, he was really more so focused on no debt, and on relieving your, getting rid of debt. And at that time, I did not have debt. So it was not something that model just at that time didn't really work for me. I was more interested in the one that you mentioned, the growth model, which is where you're actually, using your money to grow, to grow your money, and you're leveraging, whatever debt that you may have. So that was one of the models that I, kind of ascribed to and learned more about so that I can, grow, my legacy for myself and my children. Nefertari, I guess I'll pass it on to you. After you've heard some of the models that we mentioned here, the financial money philosophies, is there one that you feel like maybe is more in line with you and your financial position?
Yes, when I think about the financial plan, I think about like building your financial house, so to speak. And so in doing that, when you think about a home, first you have to have your foundation there. And so there's like 6 different steps to like developing or building your house. So like number one is one of the things that we often don't think about, but just like protecting your income. So like when you're really young, and one of the ways to protect your income in case something happens to you, or to keep your family in good position, is making sure that you're covered through insurance. The next step would be budgeting. I heard Nafisah speak on budgeting, having that emergency fund or creating the wheel. So it's like making sure that you have those things in place. So that first one is the foundation, and then you just kind of like build it up. And then talking about paying off debt. So that was really, that's something like the country is like in major debt itself. When we think about individuals, a lot of times we do create a lot of debt for ourselves. So that's like a goal. Daaiyah mentioned earlier, like you don't want to have $10,000 sitting in your savings account and then you've got all this debt here. So paying off your debt, and then looking at retirement and college savings as you start to develop and save, as you get into the process of saving money. So, and then you can kind of get into your other goals and your dreams of things that you kind of foresee what you want to do with your money. So those are 2 things I thought of, is like building your financial house. And then there's a thing called your financial GPS. So it's kind of like looking at what it's going to take for you to get to a certain point in your life when you become, a certain age or whatever, to get, what does that look like to you? What do you want that to be? And so there's like a system in place where what you do is you just pretty much take a certain amount of money times the times that times, like, let's just say 12 years, 30 years, whatever it is, and you take it times that 9%. And so, and this is like what you want. This is to say, by the time I'm 55 or by the time I'm 75, this is what I want to have in place. And so just being able to save. So I think that's one of the things that kind of stood out to me more. It's like putting those certain systems in place, those things in place to help you to get to a point where you can save and eliminate debt.
So it sounds like you are more, you're more towards the savers model. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're more towards the saver model. And I want you all to keep in mind, Crown Nation, too, that these are not mutually exclusive. You might have one that you primarily lean towards, but it doesn't mean that you can't use the others in conjunction with the main one. So for example, even though I might be more growth minded in terms of how I direct my activities, I still might want to save to a certain extent or still have an emergency fund to a certain extent. It's just that the savers philosophy is not my predominant or primary philosophy that I use to direct my activities. So all of these, you might do a little bit of this or a little bit of that, but most of the time people have a predominant or primary philosophy that they're using or should use to direct their financial activities. So what about you,
Nafisah? Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry. One of the things I thought about when I think about savings too, it's like for me, like it's different for different people. Like for me, it's so much easier for me to hold on to some cash. Like I literally, for example, I had like $45, $50 in my wallet that I just had for like over a month versus, using a card or swiping or online, pushing a button. It's like, I notice I spend more money that way. And some things I do from a business perspective, and I remember like with one of the Dave Ramsey financial classes, that was like a practice or something, one of the things they have you do. And so, but I can like hold on to cash. Now for some people to have cash in their pocket, they spend it like so quickly. So it's like, so you have to kind of think about your, like how it fits for you. Like, if you had cash, would you like not touch it? Or, if it's in your account, if it's doing whatever, whether you got it, wherever you got it, if it's working for you or not. So thinking about what way and what system is good for you with trying to create a savings.
Right. Great. So what about you, Naimah? How have these maybe different philosophies showed up in your life or people how's it affected them, or just give us a little insight from your perspective?
Well, I'm going to kind of shatter some glass right now, because when thinking about those four philosophies, I also have to think about culture. And oftentimes when I'm thinking about money, as I've gotten older, so if I can just kind of give us a short background, I was born in Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is a place that people don't even know Black people live there, okay? And then so I kind of grew up in a culture where there's African Americans there were Hispanics, and, very affluent white people. And so when we moved from Las Cruces, we moved to Dallas, right? And in moving to Dallas, we stayed in the middle class. We were staying with actually my father's cousin, and we were living in a middle class Black neighborhood in Dallas. And my mother didn't want to live there, right? And so we then moved to Mesquite. And inside of Mesquite, it was Hispanics, because, we grew up in Las Cruces. That's what we were used to, right?
Right.
And so then, going through the Mesquite, then we moved into a neighborhood where it was predominantly white, right? And so I'm saying all of this to say this has affected how I perceive money, right? And so then thinking about living in middle class neighborhood, not necessarily having that middle class income, but we lived in a middle class neighborhood, if I can put it that way. And then leaving from there, when I went to college, staying in a college town, it's all about college and that whole arena, how you are when you're younger, in your early 20s. And then I was married early. So I was married at 22. And so then that began to kind of play into my philosophy of how money was and wasn't, because I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. Then as my children got older, moving on, and now living here in Atlanta, I mean, it's 90%, well, for me, I see 90% African American people. So even understanding how economics plays out, to me, goes back to the original philosophy that my father kind of instilled in us and kind of pushed us into, was the philosophy that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, do for self. Because Susie, she has a different frame of mind. Dave Ramsey has a different frame of mind. What is it? Think and Grow Up. just all of these, the four philosophies that you spoke about, those cultures don't mesh with me personally. And so it's easy to say save when you have been growing in a culture where you have money to save. But me as a Black woman, we are already deficient in terms of how the society has built us even having money. And so thinking about freedom through the mind first, and then taking that freedom into how it plays out to our money and our economics. And so when I'm thinking about money philosophy, number one, I'm thinking about I need to do for self, right? And meaning that I need to do for my family and my people. And then thinking about when I've taken these trips to Africa, and when we were in Senegal, and just the philosophy that they have when it comes to money, that we as a community come together with our money. When you earn money, it comes into a pot. When I earn money, it comes, all of this money comes collectively into one pot, and then we distribute that money. And here in America, we as African Americans have totally been taking away from that whole concept. And so what's kind of been taught to us is like this whole concept of a susu, right? People talking about the susu, oh, I want to do a susu, but it's been in Africa for years, right? But the difference between a susu here in America and those in Africa is that in America, you're thinking of individual self. So you're going to get the susu so you can get $5,000 in 6 or 7 months for yourself, right? But in Africa, they're thinking of, let's all put this money together collectively so that we as a community can move forward collectively, right? That means sending someone to college. That means building a house, whatever. And so that's kind of how I think about money. And so it's kind of like taking those bits and pieces of the four philosophies that you all talked about, but remembering that my culture and my identity has to be inside of that. And so again, remove, replace, rebuild, right? And developing that mindset and that thinking in terms of how money plays into, can I circulate this dollar back into the Black community so that we can thrive, and then through the thriving, our economic mindset will then shift and change. And of course, like I've said before, because we spend so much money, we just have to shift that philosophy. So yes, I believe in savings, and I do save, right? I believe in when I make decisions with money, I'm thinking of, do I have this? And have I put enough to the side, right? But then I'm also thinking about, okay, how can I grow this money, right? And in growing it, where am I spending it to grow it, right? I'm thinking about that. And then other things that I'm thinking about is, not just keeping money in the bank for necessarily emergency purposes, but am I keeping it in the bank so that it can work for me in the future? Because I think that also a concept of saving and just keeping it in the bank so that it can kind of matriculate like all of these, interest rates and stuff like that, doesn't serve the community. So again, thinking about how other cultures think about money and how we as African American people think about money. And so my philosophy is a little bit different because it's a combination of all of those things, but still thinking of that I can only spend this little, I don't want to continue to increase my income or increase my spending because my income has increased. And so I'm okay with staying in that same house for 10 years, 15 years, even though my income has increased. I'm okay with that. And then just kind of also encouraging everybody to also think about listening to Boyce Watkins and some of his lectures. He has some great philosophies on African American people and what we should be doing with our money and how we should be building wealth. So those are my philosophies overall. So hopefully that was okay.
Naimah, I think you bring in a very important point, and I'm glad that you did. I don't know if you all are familiar with the book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Dennis Kimbrough actually kind of re-scripted the book, to tailor it towards our community, because he also recognized, as Naimah said, that our people have a different mindset and we have a different experience with money. You know, for many years, we were left out of the economic system. You know, we were, you know, as you know, we were traded as money. You know, we were used as a form of money and income. So it was, you know, our mind frame is totally different when it comes to money. And so I think it is very important that we start to, you know, have conversations like this, you know, have some of our leaders, our financial leaders in the community to start to write these books that are tailored towards our African American culture and tailored towards our experiences. And also, I think the very important thing that Naimah said was our collective, you know, our collective financial positions. You know, I think that, you know, we have to start thinking about others. And I think that that's my main goal in being rich. I want to be rich. You know, I would like to be a millionaire, but that money will not sit in my account. That money will be gone to whoever needs it. You know, whatever I make, I feel like whatever I make is for everyone. So when I do become rich, you know, I want to set up, you know, institutions, financial institutions, and I want to help, you know, help the young people to get them a good financial footing. So, you know, in us building our businesses, I think that as long as we have in mind, you know, bringing that back to our communities, I know that a lot does it. But as long as we are solely thinking about ourselves and even only thinking about our families, you know, our minds are limited, you know. So when your minds are limited, you know, then that's, your money is also going to be limited. But if you're thinking about, I have to make this money to serve my entire community, you're going to be thinking on a much wider, a much broader scale. So, you know, I think using these as a foundation, you know, are good because they all have the same foundational, you know, rules, is where you're saving money so that you can have that emergency fund. And then you're also using that money to grow money. And again, Naimah hit it. I mean, you hit you just hit the point, sister, you know, where we have to spend it back in our communities. You know, so again, I have to put the plug in, you know, ladies, let's plug ourselves. You know, I am a bookkeeper. I also do administrative assistant. I also help businesses, small businesses, to grow. If you need assistance with getting your minority business enterprise certification, if you need assistance with setting up your QuickBooks, hey, if you need assistance with taxes, I'm your girl, okay? Ladies, can we just give a shout out to our businesses? You know, we're working hard. You know, we have businesses. Nafisah, you want to put your plug in, sister?
Oh, thank you so much, Daaiyah. Yes, I'm just really enjoying this this session. You know what I mean? Because I think too that all of us are striving. I mean, for me, on Rock the Crown and us four ladies, we're all about community, right? So we have like minds in terms of the big picture of what we want to accomplish. Now we may focus on different lanes, right? We may focus on different lanes, and we may have different methods of achieving that. But one of the things that I really love about all of us is that we're all focused on building ourselves up so that we can be better used to uplift our community and invest back into our community. So everything that we do on this show is predicated towards moving us as individuals, right? In our family, in our community, in our people, in that direction, right? To elevate us and move us in that direction, even when we're talking about money, because a lot of things is about language, right? So when we're talking about these different methods of money philosophies, what you're really talking about is a certain language that you're putting to certain concepts. And so, you know, it's important to understand what those are in different contexts, in the context of myself, in the context of my family, in the context of my community, and then in the broader context of my people, right? And then in the world. You know, you have those different layers of humanity that that all these topics that we're talking about are focused towards. And when you talk about my business, right? So I am a tax attorney, and I help keep people out of trouble. I help keep people out of trouble. I'm really like the emergency room physician for people with tax problems. So if you got tax problems, you need to come to me. I can help you get patched up, get you all good, take care of your problem, and send you all back into the world so you can continue building your business without having all that weight on your back. That's generally, for the most part, that's what I do in terms of advising people in that particular area. And my business is called Tax Roadmap. And I also have a firm, the Manera Law Group, which I advise people on different business transactions and business structures and complicated corporate legal matters. That's also my business as well. So Nefertari, we want to go with you, and you can tell us a little bit about your business and how you help people.
All right. Well, I am a residential redeveloper as well as a creative designer. And so I know that it seems like different ends of the spectrum, but they kind of connect in a way on the creative side of things and from a financial standpoint. So pretty much I'm, financial consulting and just learning how to make your money grow passively through real estate. So I'm working on that now. And then I'm a fashion designer. So that's the other creative side. I'm a fashion designer. I'm an event planner and coordinator. And I love to organize events. And so you can find me, if you got any special events coming up, whether that's weddings or other, and I know things are a little different with COVID now, but people are kind of starting to creep back in a little bit, doing that very responsibly. So yeah, you can look me up if you need that special outfit or design made for your special event as well, whether it's your wedding dress or whatever it is. And, as a residential redeveloper, I really love to help people. And that kind of goes back to the community. That's my interest in that, is just developing our community and making sure we have what we need as a community with getting our piece, getting our share in this world.
Yes, and Naimah, you want to tell us about your businesses?
Businesses with the ES. Okay, so basically my main business is called Get It Done. And that actually stemmed from an interaction that I had with Dennis Kimbrough. So for over 14 years, my mother actually is the executive director for ACAP, which is the Accounting Career Awareness Program. ACAP is an umbrella under NABA, National Association of Black Accountants. And the ACAP program basically just takes students through a week of, getting accounting and things like that. And so forever, I've been a counselor with that program. And one year I went and, sitting there counseling, my mom was like, oh, we're going to have Dennis Kimbrough. I was like, oh, okay, Ortiz loves those books. He's read all of Dennis Kimbrough's books. It would be nice for me to get his book autographed, right? So I'm sitting there in the banquet, and he is saying, we've done this and said this before. Sometimes it's not that you've heard it, that you haven't heard it before, but it hits you different when you do hear it. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there, and he's talking about reaching for the skies or the stars so that you can land on the mountaintop, right? And for me personally, that may not have resonated with you, and I got this whole image of this banquet in my head and everything, but literally I was sitting there in my chair, like crying, right? Mm-hmm. And there's students around, and they're looking at me, and I'm just thinking to myself, I am like over 40 years old, right? And at the time, I really had not made over $20,000 in my life. Let me just be honest, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I haven't made any money, right? And I've just been serving and working and doing all of this stuff, and I got to do something different. It's one thing to help your community with your personal assets and resources in terms of who you are as a person, but it's another to help your community with money, right? It's just two totally different things.
Right.
And my assets that I have personally in terms of being able to help organize people, organize businesses, I'm just a master at that. I can somebody can give me a concept and literally I can begin to break down every little component all the way to like the minutest point. And so with my business, what I was doing at the masjid, as you all know, is I was helping people with their businesses anyway. I was doing Excel spreadsheets, and I was, organizing people's things, and I was, doing all, even for the masjid itself, just doing multiple planning events when people came to the just doing tons of things. And I was just like, I'm doing this for free. So I told myself after that little Dennis Kimbrough speech, I was like, I'm stop feeling sorry for myself. I literally went home, and anytime I would do something, first person that comes to mind is Haja Amina. But she always was like, ask Naimah, she'll get it done, But then other people in the community were saying, oh, Naimah will get it done. Oh, Naimah will get it done. So that's why I named my business, because of what was echoing in the community for me.
Right.
And so that's what I do. I get it done. So my business now is centered around, it's a virtual assistant company that I started 6 years ago. And by the grace of God, let me tell you, foresight is everything, right? And really, I started it as a virtual assistant company, as a virtual business, because my children were in school. And I knew that I didn't have a lot of time to go into somebody's 9 to 5. And I didn't want to do that, right? And I had been working at the masjid for 10 years, and literally working at the masjid for 10 years, 6 days a week, over 40, 50 hours a week. I just didn't have any time to myself. So I was like, no, I'm going to create my own time structure, create my own, and my success on what my income will be is how successful I am in terms of engaging and being able to support other people, right? And that's what I love to do, support other people. So one of the biggest things that my business does right now is fundraising. So I do fundraising for HBCUs. I love that with a passion, helping through alumni relation departments. I also help with operations management with companies. I love to do that. I love to do event planning and event engagement. I do that as well. And then I'm also, looking at businesses with project management and how they manage projects within their businesses. And then, of course, a multitude of things, websites, flyers, all these different things, but just being able to do what I love and help serve people, and not do it in a way where I'm charging you arm and a leg. So when I'm working with you, I'm hoping that you respect me and my business and what I want to bring to you and how I want to help and move you along. And then in turn, you'll respect what I'm doing. So that's what's going on with Get It Done.
That is awesome, ladies. So I really enjoyed this. I think Naimah got passionate, and I felt her passion, and I went with it also. I'm just so excited about I'm so proud of you all. I think that I love what you're doing. We've done business together, a few of us. So, I love the energy that we're bringing. Crown Nation, please, send us some of your business, cards, send us your V cards and let us know what you all do so we can support you also. It's all about us supporting one another, us connecting, and us just sharing, our visions for what we have for our community. So inshallah, Nafisah, you're going to close us out of this wonderful boss building session.
Yes, I have enjoyed us boss building today. So we want to make sure that you make comments, that you follow us on social media. I don't know why I end up doing a social media part, and I'm not a social media person, but follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And I'm not sure about Twitter.
That's it.
But we are on those platforms, so make sure you follow us, and you can subscribe to us on YouTube. I do know that.
Yeah.
And because we want to hear from you, Crown Nation. We are here to serve you and all of us, to help elevate all of us so that we can better accomplish our goals. So thank you so much for joining our segment,
Thank you.
Boss Building Money Philosophies, and we'll see you next time on Rock the Crown.
Hey, build that money.
Yes.
Peace.